If you love me, please don't judge me. Got my hands tied, the power's above me. Don't shoot the messenger, I'm just a puppet here. If you wanna place blame, then look to the puppeteer. Family, fortune, envy, jealousy, privilege, passed on, legacy, secret, sabotage, borderline, felony, suicide, subtract, selfish, pedigree, yeah.
How's it going, everybody? It's C-RadTV back here in another video. So, of course, it's time to continue on the What If NASCAR Had the F1 Points Format series. So, the last time in the series, we took a look at the Northwest series and learned that a few things changed, but a few things also stayed the same at the same time. And in this part, we're going to wrap up Phase 2 of this What If series of looking at some inactive NASCAR series by taking a look at the now inactive Whelen Southern Modified Tour. So, of course, for this tour, this was a tour that started off originally as the SMART series, the Southern Modified Auto Racing Team series. That ran from 1985 to 2004 until NASCAR took over it in 2005. This series would run all the way till 2016. Until 2017, when they would merge with the Modified Tour that we have today, with the Whelen Modified series. It would merge in with that. And of course, the SMART series is actually going to be making a comeback in 2021. And should include the likes of Bobby Hamilton and Ryan Newman as well. So, something to keep in, something if you're interested for. So yeah, we're only going to take a look at the years NASCAR took it over from 2005 till 2016. So those 12-year seasons that they had there. And we're going to take a look and see what would have changed had they used the F1 Points Format series. So yeah, of course, I'm on the screen. Here are the 2 points formats we're going to be using for this one. When one of those points formats is the one that we have today. No, we will not be using double points in 2014 because the double points was a gimmick. And I'm not doing gimmicks in this. So yeah, anyway, and before we get this underway, let me once again just stress out that this is just a hypothetical scenario. I know everyone would have raced differently had they used the F1 points format. This is just for fun. So now, with all that out of the way, let's get this underway and let's begin to wrap up Phase 2. So for the 2005 season, the inaugural season of the Whelen Southern Modified Tour, we would have a close three-man battle for the championship between Junior Miller, Burt Myers, and Brian Lofton. All three were the class of the field all year in terms of speed and consistency. Very close to the three that in the end, this championship battle would go all the way down to the season finale at Ace Speedway, with Junior Miller entering with a 1-point lead over Burt Myers and a 4-point lead over Brian Lofton. So Miller and Myers, whoever finished the highest, would end up having the edge in the title fight, while Brian Lofton, he would need to finish a couple spots ahead of Miller or Myers. Like, pretty much Lofton needs to have a strong finish and hope that Miller and Myers both struggle in the race. In the end, Brian Lofton in the season finale ran near the front for most of the race, while Burt Myers and Junior Miller both ran near the bottom of the top 10. In the end, Burt Myers, he would finish 9th in the race, which would officially, out of the points, so that officially eliminated him from the championship battle. While Junior Miller would finish 8th in the fight. So in the end, it was set up to where if Brian Lofton could finish 4th or better, Lofton would win the championship. In the end, Brian Lofton would do everything he would need to win the title, as Lofton would end up finishing 2nd in the season finale, and that 2nd place finish would be more than enough for Lofton to win the championship over Miller by 3 points and edge out Burt Myers by 5 points. So under this format, Brian Lofton would be the inaugural Whelen Southern Modifieds champion. So for the 2006 season, we would have a three-man battle for the title again. This three-man battle consists of Junior Miller, Tim Brown, and L.W. Miller. Those three were the class of the field all year in terms of speed and consistency. A very close championship for the three that. For the second year in a row, the championship will go all the way down to the season finale at Southern National Raceway Park, with Junior Miller entering the finale with a 2-point lead over L.W. Miller and a 4-point lead over Tim Brown. So pretty much Miller just need to stay close to Brown and L.W. to lock up the title, while Tim needed to finish a couple spots ahead of Junior Miller and just need to finish ahead of L.W. Miller to have a shot at the title. L.W. Miller, if he finishes ahead of Junior Miller, he would win the title. So in the end, it was a very close race between the top three, with all three running near the front for the majority of the season finale at Southern National. In the end, though, Junior Miller would make a pass on Tim Brown late in the race, and then Junior Miller would cruise away and go on to win the race, while Tim Brown would finish second, and L.W. Miller would end up finishing fourth in the season finale. And the win would be more than enough for Junior Miller to lock up the championship over Tim Brown by 6 points and L.W. Miller by 7 points. So Junior Miller would still win the title in 2006. So the 2007 season, it was a close two-man battle for the championship between L.W. Miller and Tim Brown. Those two were the class of the field all year in terms of speed and consistency. In the end, Tim Brown would fail to be consistent in key moments of the year when it mattered the most. L.W. Miller would take full advantage of it, and he would lock up the championship over Tim Brown with around 2 races to go in the year. Now, Tim Brown would have some solid runs to finish the season, but all those solid runs did was just make the championship look closer than it actually was. So the 2008 season, it was a very close two-man battle for the championship between Brian Lofton and Tim Brown. Those two were the class of the field all year in terms of speed consistency. But once again, Tim Brown, like the year prior, Tim Brown would once again fail to be consistent in key moments of the year when it mattered the most. And Brian Lofton would take full advantage of it. And Lofton would go on to lock up the title with around a race to go in the season. So Brian Lofton would win his second championship in 2008. So the 2009 season, it was all about George Brunholz. Like, George was just the class of the field all year in terms of speed and consistency. Like, nobody was on George's level in 2009. And George would easily cruise to the 2009 Southern Modifieds Championship. So for the 2010 season, it was one of those weird years where there wasn't a clear-cut dominant driver all year. In the end, though, 5 drivers would separate themselves from the rest of the field, and those 5 being Burt Myers, L.W. Miller, James Savoli, Andy Seuss, and John Smith. Those 5 were the class in terms of speed and consistency. In the end, though, late in the season, John Smith would fail to be consistent in key moments of the year when it mattered the most, and he'd be eliminated with a race to go in the year. So in the end, this championship will go all the way down to the Charlotte Motor Speedway short track on the front stretch, the little quad oval, the little quarter-mile quad oval, with 4 drivers still eligible for the championship. It enters in with James Savoli entering with a 6-point lead over Andy Seuss, a 12-point lead over Burt Myers, and a 15-point lead over L.W. Miller. So pretty much Seuss will need to finish a couple spots ahead of Savoli. Myers will need to have a strong run and hope Savoli has issues. And Miller needs to pretty much win the race and needs Savoli and everyone else to struggle. So in the end, in the season finale, pretty with some controversy in there, as James Savoli, he would end up being parked in the race and end up finishing 16th after he after he caused 2 accidents in the race, with one of those accidents taking out Andy Seuss, so Andy Seuss would end up being crashed out by Savali. So Seuss would get eliminated from the championship, but Savali could still win it. It just depends on what happens with everybody else. Meanwhile, John Miller, LW Miller, he would pretty much run top 10 speed all race, and he'd end up finishing 6th, and that would not be enough for him to win the championship, so he would be eliminated as a result. So in the end, it set it up to where if Burt Myers could finish at least 4th or 3rd or better, Burt Myers would end up winning the championship after Savali blew it. In the end, Burt Myers would do everything he would need to, and have some luck go on his side, as Burt Myers would dominate the race at Charlotte, leading all but 1 lap, but Myers led the ones that counted the most, and Myers would end up winning the season finale at Charlotte, and that win would be more than enough for Burt Myers to lock up the championship by 13 points over Savali. So Burt Myers would be your 2010 Whelen Southern Modifieds champion. So the 2011 season, it was all about George Brunholz. George was just the class of the field all year in speed and consistency. Like, nobody had an answer for George in 2011. And George Brunholz, he would end up easily cruising to his 2nd Whelen Southern Modifieds championship in 2011. So the 2012 season was pretty much the same as the 2011 season. Wash, rinse, repeat. George Brunholz easily cruises to his 2nd consecutive Whelen Southern Modifieds championship and his 3rd Southern Modifieds title. So the 2013 season, it was once again all about George Brunholz, just flat out dominating the field once again. Despite a push though from Kyer Ebersol, it would still not be enough to dethrone Brunholz, as Ebersol would fail to be consistent when it mattered the most. And Brunholz, he would easily pull away and win his 3rd consecutive championship in 2013 and his 4th Southern Modifieds title. So the 2014 season, it was one of those weird years where there wasn't a clear-cut dominant driver all season. In the end, though, 4 drivers broke themselves away from the rest of the field. Those 4 being Andy Seuss, George Brunholz, Burt Myers, and J.R. Bertuccio. Those 4 were the class of the field all year in terms of speed and consistency. In the end, though, late in the season, Burt Myers and J.R. Bertuccio would fail to be consistent in key moments of the year when it mattered the most, and both of them would be eliminated with around a race or 2 to go in the season, respectively. So in the end, the championship battle would go all the way down to the season finale at Charlotte Motor Speedway, the Quad Oval, on the front stretch, with Andy Seuss entering with an 8-point lead over George Brunholz. So George needed to finish up front, and he would need Andy Seuss to finish a couple spots back to have a shot at the championship. In the season finale at Charlotte, both Brunholz and Seuss would run near up the front of the field. In the end, though, George would end up finishing in 3rd place, but Andy Seuss would do everything he would need to win the title, because with George finishing in 3rd, it meant that Andy would have to finish 6th or better to win the championship. In the end, Andy Seuss would end up finishing 5th in the season finale, and that 5th place finish will be more than enough for Andy Seuss to win the championship over George Brunholz by only 3 points. So Andy Seuss would still win the championship in 2014. So the 2015 season, we would have 4 drivers separate themselves from the rest of the field. Once again, those 4 being Andy Seuss, George Brunholz, Jason Myers, and Burt Myers. Those four were the class of the field all season. In the end, though, late in the year, both Jason and Burt Myers would fail to be consistent in key moments of the year when it mattered the most. Both of them would be eliminated with a race to go in the year. So in the end, the championship battle would go all the way down to the season finale at the Charlotte Motor Speedway Quad Oval on the front stretch, with Andy Suess entering with an 18-point lead over George Brunholz. So George would effectively need to win the race and would need Andy Suess to finish 7th or worse in order to win the championship. In the end, though, throughout the race, George Brunholz dominated the race, and Andy Suess ran near the bottom of the top 10, mid-top 5 throughout most of the race. In the end, though, George Brunholz would do everything he would need to by winning the race at Charlotte. But in the end, would that win be enough to win the championship? It would not, as Andy Suess would do everything he would need to win the title by finishing 6th. And that 6th place finish would be more than enough for Andy Suess to win the championship, his 2nd straight championship, by 1 single point over George Brunholz. So Andy Suess would go back-to-back in 2015. So for the 2016 season, aka the final season of the Whelen Southern Modifieds Tour before it merged with the Whelen Modifieds Tour, we would have a close 3-man battle for the championship between Burt Myers, George Brunholz, and Andy Suess. Those 3 were the class of the field all year in terms of speed and consistency. In the end, though, George Brunholz and Andy Suess would fail to be consistent in key moments of the year when it mattered the most, and Burt Myers would take full advantage of it and pull away in the championship, locking up the title with a race to go in the season. So Burt Myers would win his 2nd Whelen Southern Modifieds Championship in 2016, and technically he would not be... Well, technically the final Southern Modifieds champion was Andy Suess, but Burt Myers wins the championship in the final year the series existed before it merged. So, yeah, you figure it out. But yeah, Burt Myers would still win the 2016 title regardless. But yeah, anyway, that's going to wrap it up here for this part of What If NASCAR Had F1 Points Format series. And it's going to wrap up Phase 2 of this series as we're done looking at all the because we have now looked at all the inactive series that I wanted to take a look at. And we looked at quite a few of them. So yeah, that's going to wrap it up here for this phase. So yeah, there was quite a bit that happened in this. We had 5 championship battles go down to the season finale. And we had only 1 title change under the F1 points format. And that was the inaugural season of the Whelen Southern Modifieds Tour. Other than that, every other champion remained the same. So yeah, pretty much, except for the inaugural season, nothing really changed. It's just some title battles looked a lot closer than some others didn't. So yeah, there was so pretty much next to nothing really changed under this points format in the Southern Modifieds Tour. But we will be visiting the Modifieds again when we get to the Whelen Modifieds Tour in Phase 3. So yeah, Phase 3, of course, it's going to be taking a look at some of the other active NASCAR series. It'll be the final phase we do with the What If NASCAR Had F1 Points Format series. So Phase 3, the final phase, which will be ARCA West, which is what we're going to be tackling next. Then we got ARCA East, then ARCA, then the Penny Series, and then the Whelen Modifieds. And then we have the Mexico Series, and then the Whelen Euro Series. And, of course, this race will wrap up with, of course, I'm looking at the 2020 seasons for ARCA West, ARCA East, ARCA, the Penny Series, the Whelen Modifieds, Mexico, and the Euro Series. And then the 2021 season for all the series, which even includes Cup, Trucks, and Xfinity. So, yeah, and I expect the 2021 season, the final part, be out sometime in December or January or February at the very latest. Depending on how fast I do these. I'm in no rush to get this done, especially the 3rd and final phase. But yeah, anyway, that's all I gotta say for this part. So yeah, we'll join back in for Phase 3, the ARCA West series. And now for some of the series in Phase 3, though, I'm not going to be able to go all the way back because I'm not going to have all the data in time. So there will be some where I'm going to start them at a later time, at a certain time, and then we go from there. So I will go as far back as I possibly can, and we'll start the series from there. So pretty much if we're starting a series at a certain point but not going all the way back, then the champions will remain the same up to that point. But yeah, anyway, that's all I got to say for this. That's all I got to say. Hope everyone has a great day. I'll see you on whatever I make next. The first part of the ARCA West with F1 point series. It comes out depending on how fast I make it. But yeah, that's all I got to say. See you on whatever I make next. Peace out.